You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
Do you have a paranormal story you want to share on Night Dreams Talk Radio? You could be a guest. Email us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com, and thank you.
You are listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, from our compound to you worldwide, with your host, Gary Anderson.
That is me. Boy, I can't believe it's already Wednesday. The week is going really fast. Well, I hope everybody's been having a great week and staying out of trouble. You might want to check out our website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. That's www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Please tell your friends about us, about Night Dreams Talk Radio. You know, we're trying to rule the early night of talk radio. And, well, with your help, we've certainly been doing a great job. Hey, James, are you still there?
Yes, I am still here, Gary. Looking forward to the rest of the show.
Ah, so am I. We're going to have a great guest on talking about, well, she travels all around the world. That's Judie Fein. And we're going to be talking to her in about another minute. I'll make a phone call to her.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I'm sure she's got a lot of great facts and stories to tell us.
Oh, we'll find out. It's one thing I've always wanted to do is travel the world. About the only two places I've ever seen besides the United States was Canada and, well, shortly, or a short period of time, Vietnam. That has been my extent of any traveling.
Yeah, and I'm sure he wasn't in Vietnam for a vacation of any sorts, by no means. And Canada, well, Canada's Canada. I don't even know if that counts as a country to visit. Does it or does it? I don't know. I've been to Canada a few times myself.
Well, last time I went to Canada, $1 was worth like $1.50. So, I mean, it was cool. You go in there with $800 American and you got like 1,000 Canadian. But then the prices are actually higher. Well, some things are actually higher, then some things are quite a bit cheaper, but I don't know. Let's get a hold of Judie and get her on the show. So let's give her a call right now. Let's see if she answers by the third ring.
Hello.
Well, hi, Judie. How you doing?
Okay. Is this Gary?
Most of the time, depending on who you are.
You sound like you have... I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico. You sound like you have an 8 p.m. voice.
Well, thank you. Anyway, what's the weather like in where you're at?
Whoever has time to walk outdoors? I'm working all the time inside my computer. No, seriously, it was 70 degrees today, balmy, beautiful, and the warning went out, prepare for winter. So there you go.
I don't know. Earth changes are going on. It's crazy because I live up in Washington State. Yeah. I remember last year it was in April. We never had a freaky day like this, but the temperature hit like 91 degrees for one day.
In April? Wow.
In April. And then the next day it was back cold again. But the summer was really good, and it lasted all the way to like the middle of October. This year, I've been running the heat for the last 3 weeks because it's cold.
My husband and I are travel journalists. Everywhere we go in the world, people are saying the same thing. It's never been like this. And this is everywhere in the world. It's not just us. It's not where we live. Really, it's in the remote islands. It's just name it. People are extreme. They're alarmed. They're upset because they're used to planning their lives around, expected weather, and you can't count on it anymore. It's a bad thing. Bad thing.
Have you been seeing the earth changes since you travel all around the world? Are you noticing that too? It's just not maybe where you live at, but it's everywhere, and it's alarming.
We went to Greenland. We were on a ship. It was very, very moving to go to Greenland. A tree is about half an inch tall. It's a story of survivor. They have a joke there, and they say, just hide in the Greenland forest if you don't want to be seen, because you're like Gulliver and Lilliput. A tree is a quarter of an inch big. They hang on for dear life trying to survive. And we saw the ice sheet melting, and we saw the change. And we saw northern lights at a time when they said they're totally not supposed to be there. Everywhere we go, it's the same story. The permafrost is melting in Alaska. They don't know how to predict anything. We just came back from Cuba. It's such a fabulous, deep, paranormal country.
Oh, yeah.
But again, the weather there was unpredictable. So, yeah, I'm just nodding. People in Santa Fe nod a lot.
Okay.
I'm just nodding. I'm nodding when you say that, because there's nothing you can count on. If you're traveling someplace, you look and you say, what's the average temperature, usually in January, February, whatever. You can't count on it. Just throw everything you own into a suitcase and, just carry it, and you'll figure it out when you get there.
I am really scared. I'm a senior citizen, believe it or not, and I have a lot of grandkids, and I am so scared that, what are they going to, when they get like in their 20s and 30s,
yes,
they're like 3 years old to about like 14 right now. What are they going to be looking forward to? Because I got a funny feeling it's not going to be the same planet as what we grew up, and expected to be.
But humans have been, up until now, extremely adaptable. I want to say something that might interest you. About, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we were sent on an Inuit ship. And there were Inuit elders on the ship. And it was a very small ship. And we were going into the Arctic on the Atlantic side. And I had an assignment. For a newspaper. And the assignment was find out from the Inuit, Eskimo, the Inuit elders, how they feel about climate change. So I waited and met them, and we chatted, and we had a good time. And then I would talk to them at night. I'd say, can I ask you a question? And they'd say, sure. I said, how do you feel about climate change? And they didn't answer. And I thought, well, maybe they're not hearing me. So the next night I'd go and I'd meet with them, and we'd talk and we'd schmooze, we'd have a good time. And then I'd say, can I ask you a question? And they said, yes. And I said, how do you feel about climate change? And nobody answered me. By the third night, I really had to know. So I said, I've been asking you about climate change, but it doesn't seem to be worrying you. They said, what we're number one most concerned about is cultural change. I said, well, what does that mean? They said, for example, when people went fishing, hunting, excuse me, and they would get a seal, they would spear a seal, and they would share it. That's their food. They would share it with the whole community. Now, when people get a seal, they kind of, keep it for their own family. And the culture is changing so rapidly. They eat fast food. They're sedentary. The kids sit in front of television. So it's the whole thing. What are our kids and grandchildren going to have on this earth? It's that the climate is changing. The coastal areas are going to change. But also the culture is changing. And right now it's not changing for the better. But then there are all these kids forcing world leaders to pay attention to, hey, we got to do something. Look what's happening. So I don't know. What do you think?
I think, honestly, what's happening in our country right now is really, really shocking, at least to me. Because, the EPA has been virtually stripped. They're almost totally naked. All the laws it took all these different administrations to put on to protect us, they're all gone.
Yes.
And
they're all gone.
Yeah, and it's scary. And then we have somebody is opening up different fields in Alaska that were never, the other president said we'll never allow oil drilling in those areas.
There is a site in New Mexico. As far as I'm concerned, the two major prehistoric or very, very, very old Native American sites are Chaco Canyon in New Mexico and Cahokia Mounds. That's in East St. Louis. And they're startling. It's like you're walking into a city of an ancient civilization. and they're protected because their ancestors, especially in New Mexico, still live here. I mean, their descendants. And these were very, very brilliant, powerful societies that had outlying towns. It was a huge, I'm saying metropolis, but it was an area where people maybe came for pilgrimage, where they lived, where they worshipped. Very, very powerful site. If you haven't been there, you have to go. And they have just said that they're going to start doing fracking and an oil extraction around there. And people are going crazy. The Minister of the Interior was here today in New Mexico saying, listen, pay attention to this. And he remembered when he was a child, he went to Mesa Verde in Colorado. Have you ever heard of the ruins in Mesa Verde?
No, I haven't.
Colorado?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you need a trip out here. And they're startling. People, they lived in cliffs. And there was such sophisticated culture. How could they get down to these, I'm saying the houses, the abodes that are inside cliff faces? You can't even imagine how they got down there. And he remembered, our Interior Secretary of the United States, he remembered when he was a child going to Mesa Verde in Colorado and encountering the ancient native civilizations. And so for a moment, maybe his heart opened to understand you can't do fracking there. You can't extract oil from something that is a World Heritage Site. And that's what's going on right now. It's really unpleasant, and you have to figure out as a human, how do you deal with it? You can't walk around upset all the time. You can't ignore it. What are you supposed to do? We're so powerless.
It's scary. Even in Texas, where they would sit there and pump oil, right? And then they said, okay, well, we're done pumping oil in it. Now we're going to pump water into it. Well, that worked for a few years, and all of a sudden they started developing sinkholes. But, even the fracturing and all this other stuff, it's in the long run, it's going to do major damage to the area.
Major damage. But this is the thing. Each of us has to do whatever we can to contribute to making life better. And, we're not going to change the world, but we can change our world. We can be conscious. We can look what you're doing now. You're speaking about it. You have a large audience. You have a heavy fan base. And people are listening to what you're talking about. Each one of us, I write books. I try to write about things that are about other cultures and why we're on a wrong path. But I never say we're on a wrong path. I just say, come with me into another culture. Let's go. And that's what I do with my life, every day of my life. And I give talks, I write articles, I blog, my husband photographs, and I just try to take people into another way of thinking, another way of being that might inspire us to change some things about the dead-end way we're living right now.
It is.
What do you think about that?
The way we're going, I don't think we have much more time. That's what's scary.
But what does that mean? Okay, so then we don't have much more time. So what?
Well,
what are we supposed to do?
I think we should try change, because, again, I have my grandkids. I love them. And I want them to have some type of future. We need to, really recycle. We need to figure out how we conduct ourselves. We need to get a hold of our congressmen and our senators and say, listen, what's going on is wrong, and we need to make some changes. I mean, they're in denial what's going on. The sea is, you talk about Greenland, Iceland, all these places, Antarctica, the ice melting like you wouldn't believe. From going from the equator all the way up in the Atlantic Ocean, all the way up to the UK and all around that, there's that warming